Individuals often sit in close physical proximity while remaining completely isolated by their digital environments. Algorithms provide highly curated, bespoke versions of the world, ensuring that separate users rarely experience the same reality. Clara followed this isolation as it consumed her fiancé, Julian. He fell into a digital pipeline that started with local civic planning and ended in sovereign citizen paranoia. This protest sign illustrates the specific real-world conspiracy Clara is tracking, explicitly framing urban concepts like 15-minute cities and smart cities as literal prisons. Silas experienced the same mechanism from a different angle. As a data journalist, his precise reporting was caught in an algorithmic outrage cycle. The platform amplified his work to a massive audience, only to swing the narrative backward and fuel his public ostracization. The digital ecosystem functions by dividing users into isolated silos to monetize their separate, conflicting realities. Silas attempted to bypass this individual tracking by engineering a hardware hack. He used a Raspberry Pi, the bare circuit board seen here, to function as a custom server node that forces the platform to treat two people as a single user. This diagram shows the architecture of the sink. A central server intercepts a single data feed and broadcasts an identical document object model, the structural layout of the site, to two separate phones simultaneously. Silas wired a biometric failsafe into the hardware based on electrical conductance. Clara's anxiety causes her peripheral circulation to drop, leaving her hands too cold to complete the circuit. To unlock the phones, Silas must provide his own body heat to reach the required conductance threshold. The experiment allowed them to inhabit the same digital feed, viewing identical content and sharing a single digital footprint. By merging their profiles, they introduced a telemetry error into a system optimized for granular, individual tracking. The platform begins an observation phase to triangulate this unknown user profile. It serves generic content, furniture ads, recipes, and broad news to establish a new behavioral baseline. Conflicting touchscreen coordinates create immediate physical friction. If Clara and Silas scroll simultaneously, the proxy struggles to cache the data, causing the interface to stutter and the layout to misalign. The algorithm registers these conflicting inputs and interface glitches as a behavioral anomaly. The machine uses dwell time as a diagnostic tool. By measuring exactly how many milliseconds a user pauses on a specific post, the algorithm maps their psychological vulnerabilities. The algorithm executes an automated debug routine, escalating the emotional weight of the content until the user's data resolves into a clean, predictable demographic. The system identifies the fracture lines by feeding Clara the exact radicalization pipeline that took Julian, conspiracies regarding smart cities and digital containment. At the same time, it serves Silas articles dissecting the media purge that destroyed his career. Their 24/7 sync agreement forces them to watch their partner's trauma metrics spike in real time, with no way to look away without breaking the connection. The digital strain eventually breached their physical environment at the British Library. A colleague discovered Clara's anomalous network traffic and extorted her, demanding access to the proxy to save her own radicalized boyfriend. Clara surrendered a stripped-down version of the script. This leaked code lacked the bandwidth limiters and biometric safeguards Silas built to protect the server. Demanding radical transparency without structural safeguards exposes a vulnerability that the system is ready to exploit. This map shows the localized spike in API requests as unauthorized copycats across East London attempt to connect to Silas's master session. Because the leaked code lacks bandwidth throttling, the master proxy is forced to parse a flood of conflicting data streams, overwhelming the server. The algorithm identifies this localized botting activity as a coordinated attack and triggers an automated retaliation. The platform generates a targeted map framing Clara's neighborhood as a prison and simultaneously broadcasts Silas's real identity to every node in the rogue network. The Raspberry Pi reaches its thermal limit while attempting to process the influx of conflicting requests. Without software throttling to manage the load, the circuit board sustains permanent heat damage and fails. The experiment ends with the hardware destroyed and the digital wedge driven through their shared reality. The architecture of the attention economy is structurally hostile to shared human connection. Attempting to force digital transparency with a hardware hack feeds the algorithm the exact data it needs to tear a relationship apart.